Hey guys, so today I'm gonna teach you some tips and tricks on how to raise trees from seed, and it's pretty easy. It's not very hard at all actually, and it just takes some patience and persistence. So the first step is your vision. So are you going to give these people, are you gonna plant them in your yard, are you gonna just raise them for fun, or are you gonna plant them in the forest, anything like that? What are you gonna do with the trees once you have them, because you will get them eventually? And next is the cost. So you wanna do you wanna have a low budget, because it's not gonna take a lot of money. It's basically free besides the pots and the soil. You can get the seeds at least, which is not hard at all. So the second tip is space. So you want to look, where are you going to raise the trees? Where are you going to grow them? I can grow them in my basement. I just set up a grow light down there. If you have a grow light, you can use it. I would highly recommend it. If not, you can raise them outside. You just can't do it in the winter, really. And so you just want to make sure you have enough space, because they're not going to be this tall forever. They're going to get a foot tall before you give them away, or you plant them at least, preferably probably. And so you just want to make sure you have enough space for them to get large, and light. Light is very important. You need to give it a lot of light, and at a consistent schedule, a little bit consistent at least. You want to be kind of mimicking the outdoors. You can change it by a couple hours or anything like that, but it should be consistent. So the third one is your species. So you always want to grow native. That's my motto. And I might go into that later, but it's very important that you grow native, because these trees were here before us. Wherever you are, if you're on the West Coast, your native tree is going to be completely different to the East Coast. Same with like different continents. There's a huge difference and variation. So you want to look up wherever you live. I live in Ohio, so I go to the ODNR website, and then it has a list of native trees and non-native trees, and I just pick from them. I might make a list of native trees to the eastern U.S. that can be used for various purposes, like pretty flowers or anything like that. Some examples are like the American and Canadian plum you can use for flowers, like red buds, dogwoods. There's a couple different types of dogwoods that you can use. There's so many. So the point is that whatever type of tree you want, there's a native alternative, and just grow that, please. Planting non-native trees is very unhelpful. It's not adding at all to the ecosystem or anything like that. They haven't evolved alongside the other trees, especially if you're planting them in the forest. Like, you can plant an apple tree in your yard, sure, or like a pear tree or something, if you're gonna like use it, but just don't plant something because of its looks. Like, I have a big Dawn redwood. I didn't plant it. It was there like 60 years ago or something, and it's massive, probably over 100 feet tall, but it's not native, so I don't plant it. So just remember to always plant native, no matter what. If you want like a weeping willow or something like that, because of its foliage, get a black willow. There's tons of native willow trees. I think there's 2 in my area. So just research it, and you will find a native alternative. I guarantee it, to every single thing you want. If you want a flower, if you want a fruit, if you want anything, like if you want it for the bark or the foliage, anything like that, guarantee there's something for you. So the species will determine the pot size. So if it has a long taproot, you can just look this information up. So if it has a long taproot, you want something like this. This is a bag. It's a grow bag that I just got on Amazon, 100 for 20 bucks. It's really cheap. And you just fill it with soil and put something in there. But you notice how it's deeper than it is wide, and depth is way more important when you're growing trees, especially deep-rooted trees like this oak. I actually tried growing oaks in containers that were like this big, these containers, and because I didn't know any better, and a lot of them ended up dying prematurely and failing. So you want, I'm sure the taproot is already hit here, it's only this tall, so like oaks, hickories, pawpaws, anything like that, a lot of trees have a deep taproot. So you want to have at least 10 inches deep, which it sometimes can be hard to find, but these nursery bags, they're really cheap. I'm pretty sure they make these biodegradable ones in deeper sizes. You can get containers, you can get the plastic tubes that they use in nurseries and stuff. You can get anything, but just, you can use a water bottle, seriously. I've done it before. You just drill holes in the bottom. All a pot needs is drainage and depth. That's pretty much it. And using a clear container will also help because you can see the roots. I just like doing that just so I know that they're actually growing. And I just really like deep containers. And the narrower the container is, the less soil you're going to use, so that's a plus too. If you have a container that is this wide and it's 12 inches deep, that's going to take up so much soil, and you can only grow one tree in that. If you have a container that's this wide and 12 inches deep, you're going to be able to grow like 4 or 5 times as many trees with the same amount of soil. So you want a tree, a container that is deep, has good drainage, and it could be clear. It doesn't have to be. It could be biodegradable. That's one thing that I really value, is biodegradability, because you won't have to take it out of the bag. Like with this, whenever I plant this, I'm gonna have to take it out of the bag, and that's gonna cause it a little bit of shock, like I told you earlier. And you don't really want shock, especially when you're planting a tree in a foreign environment. You're gonna have to water it in more, just look after it more. So, but it isn't necessary, like I said. They use these exact bags in like reforestation projects and stuff like that. It's fine. So just go for a very deep pot. That matters. If I can stress one thing in this video, or a couple things, but native and deep pots. Where were we? So, okay, so gathering the seeds. So, gathering the seeds isn't as hard as you would think. Usually trees drop thousands of seeds. Some trees even drop millions, like cottonwoods. I'm sure I found a cottonwood the other day, and it probably dropped 1 million seeds in 1 year. Not even exaggerating at all. The entire ground was just a carpet of snow. And they're really small. But usually trees with bigger seeds will drop less, but they'll have more energy stored, and they can grow taller. Like a cottonwood seed is minuscule, it's tiny. So it has to shoot out its first leaves and start generating energy when it's like 1/4 of an inch tall. But like an oak can grow a couple inches tall before it even has its first leaves, because it has a lot of energy in a small acorn, or in that large acorn. And one resource that I would highly recommend for gathering your seeds is iNaturalist. So you can use other websites like fallingfruit.com. I think that's a website you can use, just wherever you can track trees. So it's a public database. You can just look up on iNaturalist. You can just type in your tree species you want and look near you, and you'll see, oh, it's in this person's yard, oh, it's in this park. And you'll have all of those sightings at your disposal. I use it for so much stuff. Like if I want a black willow tree, I'll look it up, because I don't know where black willow trees are. I haven't been around here that much. So you can just find whatever species you want, and at the right time of year, you can look it up and go get the seeds. And it's not that hard gathering the seeds, it's pretty easy. So just use iNaturalist, and it saves so much time because you don't have to just wander and look wherever you think it may be. So the next thing is stratification and scarification. So stratification is the process of basically putting your seeds in a dormant period to tell them once they're out of that dormant period to wake up. So a lot of seeds in colder climates, like temperate climates, like where I am, they need stratification because they fall in the fall, and then in the winter it's cold and they don't sprout until the spring. So you just have to basically trick the seed into thinking it's been through winter with a lot of them. Some of them don't need stratification, like white oaks. Red oaks do need stratification, like this red oak. But white oaks can germinate immediately after falling to the ground. It's pretty cool. A lot of seeds are like that, and it varies from seed to seed. And scarification is the process of basically scarring, I guess. Seed, some people dump seeds in like boiling water and let it cool. I've seen that done with redbud seeds. Some people like take sandpaper and rub it on there. There's a lot of different methods. You can dump a lye solution on it, and this is usually because the seed will have to go through an animal's stomach acid, and it'll break the seed coat, and that'll let it germinate. Like, let's say a mulberry tree, for example. It gets swallowed by a bird, and it goes through its stomach acid, and then through the bird's poop, it comes out and is dropped to the ground, and then it can germinate. And it has some fertilizer as well. So just very few seeds need scarification, actually, but just look it up and you'll see if the seed you're trying to germinate does. It's kind of rare, but it's very important you do it if it does need it. The next is soil. So the soil, I cannot stress this enough, don't buy potting soil or anything like that. Don't buy the expensive stuff. You don't have to put perlite in it or anything like that. I literally dig a hole in my backyard, scrape the seed layer away so there's not as many weeds, and dig a hole in my backyard, and then mix it with some like topsoil or anything just to like buffer it up, and maybe some twigs or something to air it out. You don't need to put perlite or vermiculite or peat moss or anything like that, because you're not going to be planting it in perlite or vermiculite. You're going to be planting it in, if you live in the eastern U.S., probably clay or sand or something like that, depending on where you live. So you want to, basically wherever you're gonna plant it, you want to have basically a half and half mixture between good soil and that soil, because you don't want to just take a plant that's in potting soil or something that's so nutrient rich and fluffy and stuff like that, and then put it in heavy clay. It's just gonna go through so much shock. So you want an in-between in there, and don't spend a lot of money. Just go in your backyard and take a shovel full of soil and fill up a pot. It's not hard. I usually make my own soil mixture, just like a handful of Pro-Mix, just for the microbes and stuff like that in it. I think it has beneficial fungi in it, and I just mix it up with some topsoil to buffer it, and some of my native soil because it's pretty rocky and clayey, and that works fine. That works great. There's not a specific recipe, but I would go somewhere between your native soil and some of the higher end stuff. But don't buy potting soil. Don't put any potting soil in there, or peat moss or vermiculite, as I said. So the next one is patience and persistence. So once you get it in the ground, the seed, you're going to have to wait. Depending on the species, it can be anywhere from 2 days, like with cottonwood, to like a month or even more for like an oak tree until it has its first leaves or something like that. And that's just because they take a while to get established, and know that they are in a safe place to germinate. And persistence, so just don't give up. You will get it. I failed so many times. I am still failing. I've tried over 30 times to root an American chestnut cutting, and none of them have been successful. But I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna modify my methods, research it more, and just, if you want a tree, don't give up. Try next year if you have to, but I would get extra seeds this year. When you're gathering the seeds, I would always recommend gathering way too many than not enough. And you can just store them in your freezer or something, just in case. The next one is pests. So squirrels and deer will be a major pain if you're raising any trees, like nut trees especially, like an acorn or a hickory nut or even a buckeye. I have a buckeye out there that has had leaves for like 4 months or something, and a squirrel just ate the nut. Like, it didn't kill the tree or anything because it's pretty established. It's like a foot tall or something. But they will eat whatever they can find if it's uncovered. So just make sure to protect from squirrels or any rodents or anything like that. I haven't heard of any birds doing this, but they probably wouldn't, unless you're growing something that they really fancy, I guess. And deer. So when you're planting, deer, if deer live in your area, it might be something else. Deer will just come and eat all the leaves, and the tree just dies after that. So you have to protect it, especially in its youth. Once it gets a little bit taller, maybe 3 to 4 feet, it would probably still need some protection, but a little bit less because it's not as vulnerable. If you live near beavers, I guess, I'm sure that won't really be a problem, but just in case, you might want to take some extra measures. Just whatever pests are in your area, just protect from them. And number 8 is hardening off. So you want to harden off your trees, which is basically just setting them outside. I have a little porch. If you have like a screened off patio or anything like that, you can set them out there. Or a greenhouse works great. I don't have a greenhouse, but if you have one, definitely use that. And it's kind of just exposing the trees to the outside air, exposing them to the day and night cycle, and the rain, which can like drown out some trees or anything like that. They need to be hardy. So a lot of them, usually this doesn't happen, but sometimes during this process, if you're doing a lot of them, a couple of them will die. That's just because they're weak and they can't really take it. So you might lose a couple, but if you're raising a lot, it shouldn't be a problem. So the next thing is transplanting and planting them in the ground. So transplanting, whenever you transplant a tree, you need to water it in. Like, I think I said this earlier. But just water it in a ton. Give it a lot of water. And whenever you're planting it outside, just like I said earlier, protect it with like a tomato cage or like cow panel or anything like that. And the last one, number 10, is monitoring. So you want to monitor your trees, just making sure they're doing okay. If they get a disease like a fungus or something, or a pest eats some of them, then just do whatever you can to protect it from that. Give it some extra water if it's looking a little bit saggy or anything like that. But like this, he looks great. Right now, he looks fine. The leaves are firm. They're not droopy or limp. If a plant is getting weaker, the leaves do go limp, so that's a good sign. So just feel the leaves, unless they're supposed to be like that, which I haven't really encountered. But just do whatever you can to protect the trees if you're gonna monitor them. So that's pretty much it. I hope you like this video, and just remember, if you want any more tree related stuff, just subscribe and remember to grow native. Bye.